Hello, loyal Facebook and YouTube viewers. This is Pastor Sullivan, and this is a little bit of a different spin on ATP, Ask the Pastor, than we've done in the past. We're going to be starting something a little bit new. We're not replacing ATP. We're continuing with that, hopefully to be published on Wednesdays. But we're going to add something for your viewing pleasure and edification, Lord willing, on Fridays. A lot of times, a question that we get both online and in person throughout the community is, what do y'all Lutherans believe exactly? A real good place to go to answer that question is always Luther's Small Catechism. In Luther's Small Catechism, he breaks Christian doctrine down into 6 chief parts, and then the daily prayers and the daily Christian life lived out in divine vocation. The Small Catechism is an excellent place to go for learning the basics of biblical doctrine, if you want it broken down into 6 chief parts. However, a lot of our viewers have studied the Small Catechism before and would like to know a little bit more about what does a Lutheran believe. Or can you be more specific about some of the things taught in the Small Catechism? And so to answer the question that we get so often, what do Lutherans believe, we're going to take you instead into the Book of Concord. We're going to go to the Augsburg Confession. The Augsburg Confession was presented in 1530 by Protestant princes and leaders throughout the nation of Germany. The Augsburg Confession, they call it that because it was presented in the town of Augsburg at the Diet or the governmental meeting of Augsburg. And what it does is the Augsburg Confession confesses the faith of the first Lutherans. Its goal is to show, first of all, what the Lutherans, the original Lutherans believed, what they taught from the Scriptures and what they confessed to be the truth. It also teaches then what they rejected and condemned as false teaching based on the truth then. So that's the first thing it did. Second of all, what the Augsburg Confession and all of its adherents and signers and pastors and teachers, etc., sought to do was to show everyone, who at that time was really just the Roman Catholic Church, but also some of the sectarians of the Radical Reformation that exist today still, what they wanted to show everybody was the Lutheran faith isn't a new thing. It's not one of the 52 flavors of Christianity that exist. The Augsburg Confession seeks to show everyone who's willing to read it and hear it honestly that the Lutheran faith is not Lutheran, so to speak. The Lutheran faith is simply the biblical faith. The Lutheran faith is the apostolic faith, Acts 2:42, the apostles' doctrine. The Lutheran faith is the all things which Jesus taught, which he commanded the disciples to teach and make disciples out of all nations with in Matthew 28, verse 19 and 20. So the Augsburg Confession states Lutheran doctrine is nothing new. Lutheran doctrine isn't a new denomination. It is the denomination. It is the doctrine of Christ and his apostles that they taught and that the church has always taught. So what we want to do is, on Fridays, we're going to start walking you through the Augsburg Confession, article by article. It's made up of 28 articles altogether. Some are shorter, some are longer, but all of them are packed and saturated with good, solid biblical theology. So what you can do to follow along with us, to get more out of this, is get yourself a Book of Concord. If you don't have one, you ought to get one because it's well worth it. In fact, someone once quipped that the Book of Concord is the best one-volume commentary on Scripture ever. And I agree with that. If you want to know what the Scripture teaches, get yourself a Book of Concord. Okay, Pastor Sullivan, where do I get a Book of Concord? Let me tell you, you can go to a lot of Lutheran publishing houses to get a Book of Concord. But go to the only truly confessional Lutheran publishing house, and that is Repristination Press, based out of Malone, Texas. What you want to do is you want to go to this website down here. It's the direct link to Repristination Press's Book of Concord. And this is what you're looking for. This is the Dow Benty edition of the Book of Concord. So for all of you Lutheran eggheads out here, this is the English text from the Concordia Triglata, which had the English, the German, and the Latin in it. Don't worry. Don't be scared of a little Latin or German. It's not in here anyway. So this is the English version. This is the version we're going to be using. This is the version that we also use for Bible studies and scripture classes here at Holy Cross. These are the page numbers we'll be following. Get yourself a copy of this. It's maybe $19-20, but it's well worth the purchase, especially if you go to a church that calls itself Lutheran and you yourself are a Lutheran. You need to have read this by the time you die, at least once. This book is great. That's what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks on Friday. Actually, it'll probably take us more than a few weeks. It'll take us at least the next 28 weeks, and probably the way we do things around here, it'll probably take a little bit longer. But so, do you want to know what Lutherans believe? Get yourself a Book of Concord from Repristination Press, or if you've got one, you can follow along in a different version. And check us out every Friday morning, where we will be posting the next week's article or part of an article as we go, and help teaching everyone out there in YouTube and Facebook and internet land, what does a Lutheran believe, and why is it the biblical, scriptural, apostolic, and Catholic faith? See you next Friday.